Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for another Drago dog walk talk. Promise to get you lots of Drago at the end. Today we're going to talk about, well, first of all, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the parade that I watched, the American parade. Yeah, lots to say about that. I tried to be nice at first when I wrote a column in Russian on that. And then we'll also talk about the, I don't know what else can we talk about, the Israeli-Iranian war that's heating up. So, let's get going. So, as I was saying, yeah, by the way, I am a metalhead. There's Metallica. As I was saying, okay, so you got an announcer that sounds like he's just off of a high school football match. Game, whatever you want to call it. You've got the troops themselves. Look, you know, first of all, they were out of step, or probably a third of them were out of step. It was a formation, the type of formation would march in, you know, when either I was in some officer or cadet or when I was enlisted. It's the type of march that you get in formation, you march to go to the chow hall. Kind of keeping in step, more or less. But not too much effort anyways. That's the kind of instep that what we saw there. Very slack. First of all, for any kind of parade like that, you try to get people together. I mean, you're literally picking specific people to make sure that they are all basically about the same height, about the same body build. You don't want a very large difference because you're pulling maybe out of a division from what I saw there, maybe a company-sized element. So you go hand-pick the people. You hand-pick them for motivation. Look, you know, most of those guys, they look bored. Nobody likes parades. Well, most enlisted, most officers, they don't like parades. But it's part of the duty. And if you're given a duty to execute, you execute to the best of your capability. And that's just how it is. End of story. These guys were obviously bored. They obviously didn't want to be there. Now, when you're hitting that kind of motivation level, you know, look, if you don't want to smile or you put on your, you know, your blank face, they used to call it a Gestapo face, whatever. But the fact is, you don't show the boredom. You keep in step. I mean, obviously these guys did not practice. They're basically, I won't say it was a full route step, but it was pretty close to that. I mean, the guys were marching with weapons slung, and they looked like they were just doing a long ruck march, not a parade. Interesting enough, too, with the guys at Port Arms, the Vietnamese in the Vietnam uniforms, you know, or weapons, shoulder weapons. I'm sorry, not Port Arms, shoulder weapons. All the different heights. Some were holding it low, some were holding it high, some were basically against their neck, either against their shoulders. You know, that just looks sloppy. That is sloppy. It doesn't look sloppy. That is sloppy. That's incredibly sloppy. That tells you that the minimum amount of actual preparation was put into it. They may have worked out who was going to go after whom, but it looked like shit. I mean, seriously. It looked... I mean, look at the old guard, the U.S. Old Guard, which is a parade guard, a ceremonial guard. They were sharp, they were on point, and the bands were pretty good because, you know, their marching is a very large part of their job description. But you look at the rest of these guys, and I understand the old Murphy's Law that no unit that was combat capable ever passed inspection. But there's a limit to that kind of BS too. I mean, this is a point where how much professionalism are you showing? If the president or your king or your monarch or your prime minister or chancellor, whatever, leader of your country gave your generals an order, and the generals passed the order on to you, you do your utmost to execute that order properly in the full spirit of that order. Nah, Drago. Nah. To execute that order. That's how it's done. That's called professionalism. That's what professionalism is all about. You might not like what you're doing, but as long as it's not illegal, you know, if they give you the order, go massacre women and children, and you do that, then you're a war criminal. But they tell you, go execute a parade, That's not illegal orders. I mean, that is not illegal orders, and you do the best you can. And the best you can better be on the level. You may not hit the level of Russia or China or even India. Oh, they're all criticizing. Well, it's still better in India. Actually, go look at Indian parades. Except for the one unit where the guys are kind of doing a jump step, which I don't particularly understand. But other than that, the vast majority of what the Indian parades look like is a hell of a lot more professional than anything that the U.S. showed on Saturday. I mean, it was piss poor, second-rate effort at best. And if some general ain't getting demoted over this, then the U.S. is screwed just for lack of professionalism. I mean, it is professionalism. That is what the name of the game is. Absolutely professionalism and nothing else in this case. And it lacked every ounce of it, from the organization to the execution. You just compare, most Americans, of course, have never seen a parade in their lifetime. It's been 30-something years since the last parades, any real serious parade. So they've got a little to keep them ignorant, and they really don't know what the standards are. And they'll accept really low bar standards. I mean, and then even the crew, the government crew. Trump looked like he couldn't understand what the hell he was looking at half the time. Rubio was squirming left and right, and was sitting eventually on his right hip, and was yawning. It was yawning, and the Fox News camera caught him yawning. Yeah, that just looks really, really good. Then you've got Haxa, he tried to look prideful, but there were moments, I think, in his face that was like, ah, shit. Yeah, that doesn't look good. That kind of moments. I mean, come on. Seriously, you couldn't organize. Yeah, this is a question of organization, first and foremost. Of course, this is a question of organization. And whether you can organize, if you can't organize a parade to a high standard, I mean, this is low, second-rate standard. You want to organize large-scale military operations, which are tons and tons of times more complicated than getting a bunch of guys together in a line, get them rehearsed how they march, and have them march. I mean, and this was an easy parade compared to, say, the Russian parade, where everybody lines up on Red Square. You got to get everything going forward. They were lining up way out of sight. They were moving in pretty much by order. There was no standoff. There's no speech. Well, until Trump's speech in the end, anyways. This was relatively easy, but it was a screw up, a second-rate screw up. What else? Oh, yeah. I have no idea why they shoved the airborne, the Golden Knights, in the middle of, I think it was Civil War. I mean, the guy, the announcer, was lagging behind. So he was announcing units or saying some tad bit of history, you know, basically stuff that by third grade you should already know. While, you know, that unit that was what he was talking about is way off already, and there's the next units are passing off stage basically, and he is just not keeping up with it. Again, you need a professional announcer. That was definitely not a professional announcer. Man, there's something dead and stinking somewhere around here, because it is stinking up a storm, rotting meat. Not as bad as the bodies were stinking up a storm, but still. Anyways, back to subject. So this, and yeah, the Golden Knights were coming in a field behind the presidential stand. That just deflected everybody's attention. It was just a shit show. You know, the more I think about it, the worse it seems. I wrote an article in Russian right after that for a couple of publications, and you know, I was trying to be nice. And one commentator who was also bilingual, I guess from the U.S. maybe, even a Russian language commentator, said, you know, I watched it, and you were way too nice. There's a diplomat inside of you dying because he's not being let out. I'm like, yeah, I'm not a very diplomatic person. I'm usually pretty straightforward, but I tried look on the bright side of that. But no, that was a shit show. The more I think about it, the more I look at it, the more, yeah, that should be at least one general demoted after that. I mean, and the guys, I mean, they're bored out of their mind. You can see that. They're marching. You are marching in front of your president, whether you voted for him or not, or your king or whatever, your leader, and your entire nation. At least show some resemblance of professionalism. The U.S. has a big, and then there's body types. Because you try to get the lean-looking war machine. That's what you should be getting. And granted, they didn't have any obese people, because the Army, by the way, if you don't realize that, the U.S. Army hit an anti-record last year. And the anti-record was 20% obesity rate. 20% obesity rate. When I served, and I left in 2004, so that's 20 years ago. But when I served, I don't think we had a 0.5% obesity rate. That was something that wasn't tolerable, especially officers and senior NCOs. Geez, you want to end a career real quick? Get obese. But now, because, they can't get enough people, they'll take just about anybody. So you wind up with a 20% obesity rate, which is ludicrous. I mean, absolutely ludicrous. But that's what you get. So you take what you can, I guess. That's the name of this game. You take what you can. Okay, way enough of my babble on this. But again, it shows the level of professionalism in the U.S. military and the general staff. So, what are you going to expect when the big war starts? And the big war might just start real soon. So you got 60,000 Americans under the umbrella of short and medium range ballistic missiles from Iran. You got Mad Dog Israel trying to start World War III as much as it can because it bit off a hell of a lot more than it could chew. But Netanyahu needs the war, and that's how he survives. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's little boy wonder, who announced, he wasn't going to die for Israel, he was going to live for Israel, is sitting in his mansion in Florida, Miami, Florida, I think. I wonder if he's next door to Zelensky's future mansion of escapades, bought and paid for with corrupt money. Gee, they have a lot in common. A lot more in common than you think. He's living it up. While the regular Israelis are dying for the dream of Netanyahu. But, then again, the surveys have shown that over 80% of the Israelis support genociding basically everybody around them, particularly Palestinians. So, it's kind of hard to feel sorry when that's the statistics from the people themselves. So, that is what it is. That is what it is. And Israel's getting feedback, and they are shocked. The Israelis are shocked. The videos are coming out. The people, I lost my house. How dare they shoot at our house? I just moved into this house, and I lost my house. Did you have a problem when hundreds of thousands of other people, foreign to you, of the Goya, were losing their houses? Did you cry for them? Of course not. You didn't. So, pardon, but what goes around comes around. It's that boomerang effect. And Israel's quickly finding out that it cannot do whatever it pleases to everybody else. There are countries that will stand up to it. And the thing is, interesting enough, yesterday, the Israeli government ratified the defense agreement with Russia that Russia ratified a month ago. So for whatever reason or another, Drago, дурной, ну куда ты бросился? На что? So Iran ratified the defense agreement, the same one Russia has with North Korea. Now, in that defense agreement is very, very specified that if Iran launches an offensive war, Russia isn't going to come to its aid. But if it's a defensive war, damn right, Skippy it will, up to and including nuclear war. So it's something to think about for the Israelis, and for the U.S. that's going to back into the hilt. Believe you me, you are about to be sucked into this big war. Trump is not his own man. I don't even know if he is his own man. I don't know how much he would say no to the Israelis at the end of the day. So that's what you got to look forward to. How it's going to be done? Well, it's not going to be boots on the ground. There's 90 million people in Iran. It's mountainous. It's forested. It's not flat desert like Iraq, southern Iraq anyways. And they will fight for every square inch of that land. And the U.S. Army and the Marine Corps physically cannot do that job. You're going to need to bring in the draft and bring in at least another 500,000 people into service. Yeah, so all you Zoomers, zoom, 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 you're going to get to see a foreign land. Kill foreign people and get massacred, get butchered by them in turn. That's going to be your new summer job. Getting ready to go die in Iran. Wow, isn't that fun? But hey, you know, it is what it is. So much for America first. America first to die for Israel. That's what it's looking like. I mean, at this point, it would behoove people to start doing demonstrations going, we're not going to war. Neither for the Democrats nor for the Republican machine. We're not going to war. We're not going for Israel. Sorry, bye-bye, not going to happen. But it's not going to happen. The vast majority of Americans are going to sit on their arse, like they always do, and then whine, why is this happening to us, or why do they hate us, or whatever. They're not going to want to find out why, because they don't really want to know why. They just want to whine, just like most of the Europeans. They're just going to sit there and whine. My life has been ruined. Oh, my kid's been press gang to go fight the Russians. Oh, why? Why is this happening? Yeah, no matter that they've been told for years upon years this is going to happen. Do something about it. That's just how humanity functions, I guess. The vast majority of humanity. So, what can you do? Anyways. And that's the situation right now. That is the situation right now. And Israel will not survive this war against Iran without direct U.S. intervention, and then maybe still won't survive this war. Even if Israel goes nuclear in Iran, and there's probably a good chance Iran has at least one nuclear weapon, fatwa or no fatwa. The Iranian military and the Iranian civilian government have a lot more control over what they do than most people think. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube, walk through Iran, walk in Tehran, where you can just look at the level of civilization there. And for those who think all the women are, it's something like Saudi Arabia, they're all in burqas. Yeah, in the religious sector, sections of the city, yes. In the non-religious or less religious sections, neighborhoods, most of the women, I mean, they're conservatively dressed. They don't look like street whores like a lot of women in the West tend to dress. Sorry, but that's the fact. I mean, if you got everything hanging out, you look like you're advertising. You may be the most, well, I guess you couldn't be the most religious woman out there if you're doing that, because modesty is part of almost every single faith in the world. But, you know, I could be wrong. But the fact is, looks are what people are going to judge you by. These women are dressed well. They're dressed conservatively, but, you know, jeans or a shirt or pantsuit. Yes, pantsuit. Most of them have some kind of scarf on their head or on their shoulders, not even necessarily on their head. And some don't at all. And no, the religious police aren't there and beating them down. It's in Saudi Arabia in this case. So, yeah. It's summertime, so on the road you get these idiot kids on their dirt bikes screaming down like crazy. Wherever else they go after that. So yeah, that fun to deal with. But yeah, so Iran is a lot more westernized, and on top of that, so Iran is a republic. America's murdered more republics in its history, especially the last 60, 70 years, than probably any country in the world. That's right, the American Republic murders republics left and right. Here comes another one. Friggin' A. Drago, story. Drago. What? Drago, what? What? So, yeah, and in Parliament, Iran has for the small Orthodox Christian population to have a representative in parliament. The small Jewish population has a representative in parliament in Iran. And even the Zoroastrians, who to the Muslim Iranians are idol worshippers, even though that was the original big faith of Persia, the Zoroastrians have a member of parliament. That's right. Bet you didn't know that, because your media won't tell you things like that. That's called doing research. Not to sound patronizing, but yeah, do some research on any subject the U.S. media tells you about, and you'll very often find that it's absolutely nothing to do with what you're being sold. The bill of goods you're being sold is bullshit. That's the usual bill of goods in the U.S. And then the reality is often very, very different. So yeah, that's one of those moments. You do your research and you find out, oh, it's really not like that. So I would suggest doing the same. Especially when it comes to somebody you may be forced to fight a war with. Just like those that are listening to me about Russia, that probably did some research on Russia and found out, no, we're not a bunch of great communists that want to eat your children. And for whatever misguided and sometimes absolutely barbaric ways that the communists acted, they did have the greater good in mind. I'm not suggesting that I support the way they went about getting to the greater good. I don't. I'm a monarchist myself, but they did have the greater good in mind. So they weren't just out to get themselves rich. Unlike, say, most of the Washington Congress critters that are bought and paid for, whose greater good is the greater good of my bank account, like Lindsey Graham. As a great example. Last trip to Kiev, $800,000 for 3 days. I don't think the Radisson in Kiev costs anywhere close to that much, even the penthouse. So what exactly cost $800,000 for Lindsey Graham at the taxpayer expense? Never mind the other money that's pouring into his account from the military-industrial congressional sector. So anyways, I will stop at this point. I will have many more, because I think there's going to be a lot more happening over the next days. So we'll see. Hopefully peace will break out. But I know that Israel and America will do everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen. And the UK and the French and everybody else. And by the way, there was a German plane taking part in the refueling. Somebody on that plane switched the transponder on just long enough so it could get logged that they're actually on location. All right, God bless. Cheers. And just a little more Drago, as always, forget to say, please like, please share this video, click the like button. And if you want to support my work, by all means, I will be more than grateful. I have a Bitcoin account and I have a Bank of America account. Old Bank of America account I still have from the US in the description. Bitcoin's probably the best, of course, for any of this. He's hot. Overheated there, pup. We're in a cool place along the walk. So, anyways, there's Drago. One more shot. Drago. Oh, what the? So, like, share, and tell everyone about it. Cheers. God bless.